Informers Podcast. I am Casey Coggins, joined as always by Alvin Hebert.
What up?
And Andrew Lira.
Howdy, howdy.
NBA free agency is upon us, and boy, did it start out hot.
Boy, yawn.
It's been quite a roller coaster ride over the last little over 24 hours. The tampering season was in full effect, and it's crazy to think that they were like, all right, let's push it up 6 hours so that all this news doesn't break at midnight.
Dude, I was so happy for that because I was going to be asleep and I was going to be so sad waking up the next morning knowing I missed everything.
And to me, it's just like, why can't they like just announce it? I feel like the NFL, they're like, oh yeah, this person's going to sign here. They haven't announced. It's like a commitment in college. Like, hey, I'm going to sign here. Like, let's plan your draft around me leaving because I'm agreeing to sign with this team, and just not have the move official like a trade. Like trades were announced on draft night. Why can't free agent moves be announced on draft night?
Especially since so many were signing trades.
Exactly. But you have the big name free agents that are moving or staying with big contracts. I believe I saw over $3 billion worth of contracts have been handed out in the first 26 hours. And you have your Kemba Walkers, Kyrie Irvings, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, all getting massive contracts. I believe the worst contract that was given out, I'm just going to throw this out there, is Chris Middleton's contract. I understand why.
I will agree, though.
But Chris Middleton, I probably wouldn't put in my top 30 players in the league. I know he was an all-star, but that was if you're going to say he was an all-star, so he's a top 30 player, that means 5 years ago you thought Kyle Korver was a top 30 player in the NBA.
He helped win the championship.
Well, I mean, Kyle Korver was good, though.
he was good, but
he was essentially a better Chris Middleton back then.
No. Chris Middleton's not as nearly as good a shooter, but overall player, he's much better than Kyle Korver is because he's a much better defender. He's a better rebounder. He's a better playmaker. Kyle Korver made the All-Star game because they had the best record in the league. I think they were like 42 like in 15 going into the break, and they had 4 All-Stars because it was Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, Al Horford, and I want to say Joe Johnson was on that team.
Atlanta Hawks team?
Yeah. So
I think people forget that he was actually a decent defender.
He was decent. He tried hard. But Chris Middleton was one of the anchors to the best defense in the league this year, and he's a very, very good defender who can guard multiple positions where Kyle Korver is not nearly there. But the contract that he was signed to is like that's reserved for guys like Giannis and Kevin Durant and Kemba Walker and Dame Lillard. Like, if CJ McCollum signed that deal, I wouldn't bat an eye at it. Like, you can argue CJ McCollum could be a top 20 player in the league. I said could argue. All right, you could
top 25 for sure.
You could argue that he's in the top 20 because it's like he could be, the second best 2 guard in the league.
He's better than some team's best player.
Yeah.
Which
is really saying about the sad state of the league, like the Suns. But so lots of big contracts handed out. I just wanted to say that I think Chris Middleton, while he earned it, he worked hard, he went through the rigors, he had an amazing season. They needed to pay him what they needed to pay him because having him next to Giannis just makes so much sense. And if he continues to develop the same way that he has over the last few years, with the season that team had. It only makes sense. And then you get into those second level deals where the Bucks lose their probably second best player in the playoffs in Malcolm Brogdon. Bojan Bogdanovic gets a good contract. Terry Rozier gets a pretty good contract. Trying to think of some of the others off the top of my head. Al Horford contract, Vucevic contract.
I like that Al Horford move.
We will get there.
That one. I was like, oh my
god. Because I feel like we're on opposite sides of the polls there.
Really?
I'm with Andrew on that one.
We'll get there.
It's gonna be reminiscent of like 99.
Because I will just say this as a precursor to my feelings about it. When they traded for Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler, my criticism about that team was, yes, they're big and they're versatile, but they're going to lose to smaller teams. They're not going to be able to keep up with smaller teams. Yeah, they ended up getting unlucky with the Kawhi thing.
The shit out of a bounce.
But I don't think that they would have beat Milwaukee, and I really don't think that they would have beat Golden State. Because they wouldn't have been able to throw the bodies at Steph the way that Toronto could. You would have been throwing like TJ McConnell and JJ Redick and trying to throw Ben Simmons at him. Like I don't think it would have worked the same. I just don't think it's a great fit, but I can see instances in which it does end up working. So, I mean, let's just, like you said, Andrew, we can go down the list alphabetically. So, that starts with the Boston Celtics. Obviously, we know that Kyrie Irving is now no longer with them. And I believe there is a seance going on in the Boston Garden or the TD Garden, whatever you want to call it. The entire state of Massachusetts.
At this point, we can call it the Garden.
Is having. I mean, yeah, pretty much. It is definitely the more important basketball garden. Maybe second to the Rose Garden, but
yeah.
Madison Garden just blew up.
What's that?
It's gone.
Isn't that where they filmed that Godzilla movie from like 97?
You right.
I feel like that's the next plot to like A Day After Tomorrow. They had their tomorrow. They were looking forward to the tomorrow, and the day after
it never came.
It never. Oh man, that's so sad.
So I think they made an incredible move, shifting from Kyrie and utilizing what they had to get Kemba Walker. I love Kemba's game, and I believe that while he might not be the person you want as the best player on a championship team, Boston has a team that's set up to be a sum of the parts championship team, where each game you just kind of go with who has the matchup, who has the hot hand. And Kemba's a guy who's not going to need the ball in his hands to score. The only reason he had the ball in his hand so much, and I remember listening to Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons talk about it. His usage rate was only like 29 compared to like Kyrie's 35. So, but he was playing for a terrible Charlotte team, so he needed to be the guy who scored. And the efficiency numbers, a lot of times when you're on a bad team, your efficiency goes down because you're getting the ball with 3 seconds left on the shot clock, having to heave a fall away 30-footer. It's just not a good shot. It doesn't go in, and now your shooting percentage looks worse than it actually should be. Pairing him with Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum, and now Enes Kanter, who agreed to sign a 2-year, $10 million deal there. in getting some of the other guys they have there. I just think that fits so much better. He's a high character guy. He's not going to do this passive aggressive LeBron taught me everything I know shit. So how do y'all feel about the shifting from Kyrie and going to Kemba? We all agree that Kyrie is a much better player than Kemba is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much better is, but like if I was to rate them in 2K, I would probably say Kyrie's like a 92 and Kemba's like an 85.
85.
Maybe an 87.
I was going closer.
Yeah, maybe.
I
I said 85 and that hurt a little bit. I was like, no, that's too low.
I was going like a 10-unit difference. If it was 92, it'd be 82. At 95, 85.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but
it's just.
All right.
Well, then
I was like, I didn't want like no numbers like 95, 85, but I was like, it's about a 10-unit difference.
Right. So then I would probably say if we want to go based off of that, then I'd bump Kyrie up. I wouldn't bump Kemba down. Yeah. So I would say like 97, 87 then.
Exactly.
So because Kyrie is, a top 3-point guard in the league.
But their numbers are identical though. You look stat wise.
Stat wise, yes. Yeah. But it's sometimes it's hard to differentiate the stats look similar, but the games are so much different.
Yeah.
But is it so much? It wasn't so much Boston shifting from him. It was he pieced out.
Right. But Boston did they were like, okay, well, he's leaving.
Because they still made an offer, didn't they?
I
don't think they got a chance, actually.
But why I say shift is, okay, this guy's leaving. We need to move, we have to have our eyes set on our next point guard. And so they were shifting. They had to shift from, okay, Kyrie was our point guard last year. He's not going to be going forward. Who do we want as our starting point guard? And to land on Kemba Walker, I think is it's a pretty damn good consolation prize. And I wouldn't even say it's a consolation prize when you weren't even playing the Kyrie Irving game.
And on top of that, not on top of that, but that should be what is it, mud in your face for Michael Jordan. For the Charlotte, they didn't want to offer him
the max. But I understood why.
Right? Yeah, they were probably in the biggest lose situation out of every team because there was no
every team.
I know you're talking about the Knicks, right? The Knicks weren't in a lose situation. They were in a lose. They were in a win-loss situation. Except their loss was a much bigger loss.
There was never a win for them. They were going to offer the max.
And now, if that's actually true, and it's not just oh well, he hurt our feelings because it's James Dolan. Who the fuck knows what's actually true? James
Dolan he is sensitive.
I don't think so.
Oakley isn't still allowed in the Garden.
Yeah, man.
Well, he's a different.
He's sensitive.
He's a different kind of sensitive. He gets butthurt when things happen, and so if he got butthurt that KD decided to go to Brooklyn instead of him, that's when he goes, "Hey, leak it out that we weren't going to actually give him the full max," because he's like, it hurts my pride. Because they had something to win. That's why I say they weren't in a lose-lose situation. They had a chance to have a win. But as time ticks on, it kind of did they really have a chance? Yes, they had the chance. But what the possibility and the probability and the odds of them actually landing on that win could be low, but it was still there. With Charlotte signing Kemba, they would have kept a guy who might not even get them to a 4 seed in the playoffs. They would jump into the luxury tax and be non-competitive for the first 2 to 3 years of that Supermax deal. So really, you're just you're paying this guy who meant so much to the team over the last few years all this money just to stay in mediocrity when you can just
talking about Charlotte.
Yeah, you can just bottom out. Hit the reset button. You're about to get rid of a lot of contracts and a lot of money.
A lot of bad contracts.
Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is going to be gone. They'll probably keep like Frank Kaminsky.
Nope. He's gone.
He's gone already?
To the Phoenix Suns?
Yep.
Oh. I missed that move.
Yep.
That was today though.
But they had quite a few contracts. Cody Zeller, I believe, is going to be up soon. Batum. And so that's where the Kemba Walker discussion kind of hit muddy waters. Is you could offer him the full max, go into the luxury tax this year, maybe even next year, and you have all this other money coming off the books. But now you're going to be paying all this money to a 32-year-old point guard who's maybe our height.
Maybe.
No, I think he's like 5'11", 6 even. Like he's about Patty Mills, in terms of height. I don't necessarily believe Patty Mills is a full 6 foot. So it was a tough ordeal for Charlotte. So it's like, all right, well, we'll give you an extension. We'll give you all this money, but like we're going to give you the same amount of money that any other team can give you. And I love what Kemba said about, like I gave my all to that team and that city and that organization, but now it's time for me to move on and start like competing for championships. So yeah, I think Charlotte did kind of what they had to do.
Can Boston win a championship with him?
I think that depends on the development.
It exactly that. It depends on Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
But can they win? Right now, yes or no? Can they win? They have a chance?
Yes.
I give them a chance, yeah.
With how crazy wide open today, I say yes, but if tomorrow or Friday or a week from now, Kawhi is in purple and gold.
Gross. Another reason to fucking hate.
Right. That's
join the wagon.
I mean, if he goes to the Lakers, I might have to take down that MVP poster I have over there, the Finals MVP poster that he won with the Spurs. I might have to take that down. I was fine with him winning in Toronto.
Casey was like, no, if he goes to the Lakers, then I'll be salty.
Yeah, I will be. I will be. I would feel the same. I would feel the same way about Kawhi going to the Lakers as I did about Kevin Durant going to the Warriors.
Insert the Dave Chappelle meme. Hate. Stupid. It's gonna go all the way around.
Player haters ball. Clap for me, bitch.
I sent that gift to people at work of Ice-T. Hate, because I was talking shit about Lil Nas X.
Dude, that's homophobic.
I marched in the Pride Parade Saturday night.
That's gay.
I'm not Iggy Azalea.
What was? Did you see the thing? It was that meme where we're talking about companies on July 1st, and it's fucking Leslie Chang from The Hangover just goodbye, gay boys. Sure enough, all the condom companies changing their fucking logos back to normal
instead of the rainbow shit.
But yeah, it'll be sad to see if Kawhi does end up joining the Lakers.
It's like straight betrayal.
I don't think he has a feeling of betrayal.
No
like
it's for he betrayed us.
But he thinks that we betrayed him in some fucking capacity.
Well, he's a bitch and he wanted to leave. We didn't even fucking want him anyway, so
it's that whole situation's still weird. But as of right now, like if Kawhi goes to any other team other than the Lakers, I would give any team in the league, scratch that, I would give any of the top like 10 teams in the league a chance at winning the championship.
Would you get the Clippers?
If he goes to the Clippers, yes.
I'll give him a shot.
If he stays in Toronto, I would probably still give the Clippers a chance just because of what I saw out of them last year and the moves that they've made so far.
With nobody on that team.
They got Gallinari, dog.
Lou Williams. Sweet Lou.
Dude, Sweet Lou. Where?
What, third straight 6th man of the year or something like that?
Was it third or
I swear the Lakers.
It's third overall.
Yeah, third overall. That's for fucking sure.
So with the Celtics, we talked about Kyrie and Kemba. They lost their big men. They signed Enes Kanter, but I don't think Enes Kanter is. If Kyrie to Kemba is a 10-unit drop in 2K, I would probably put Al Horford to Enes Kanter as like a 20-point drop. Maybe because I would probably maybe 15.
I was gonna say like 25.
What I feel like I don't know if what we saw out of Enes Kanter in the playoffs was just a blip on the radar, because what he showed every year before this year was he is a talented mid-range shooter, offensive rebounder, and can pass the ball pretty well.
If you're a team, do you take Ramadan into consideration when it comes to Enes Kanter?
Mm-mm.
Because of the all-day fasting, he doesn't have anything for 16
Hakeem
hours.
Olajuwon did that.
Yeah, but Hakeem was a freak.
Well, I know that, but
you can't compare Hakeem to fucking Enes Kanter.
Well, that's why you wouldn't take it in consideration.
That's what I'm thinking.
They're professional athletes. Like
true, but I mean that could be used against them too, because their body requires so much more.
His skill level isn't where Hakeem's was, and that's the big difference. I don't think that like fasting affected him. Like it obviously this year I don't think affected him nearly as much as it maybe had in years past. I think in years past he just wasn't sure like what his role was. Maybe he wasn't like coached well, schemed up enough to really figure things out. But the playoffs that he had this year really showed a lot going forward. And
that's why I feel he doesn't. I feel like if he had like a solid like starting job like that would be like a normality for him. What we saw in the playoffs.
Yeah, I kind of wish he would have stayed with Portland, because I liked the unit they had. But with Nurkic coming back and wanting to develop Zach Collins, and if they end up
Whiteside.
Yeah, now they have Hassan Whiteside. I don't know what they're gonna do with Myers Leonard.
They traded him to Miami.
Was that part of the deal?
Yep.
I overlooked that part.
Mo Harkless and Myers Leonard went to Miami. Then Miami shipped Harkless to the Clippers.
But the Celtics are really short-handed on the front line. They're gonna. I mean, they might make another move somehow, because they do have assets still. To go and try to find like a top 30 type big man, but right now they're probably going to be relying on Kanter and like Ojale and Yabusele.
They have that young
and Grant Williams, and then they got Grant Williams is from Tennessee, but he's like a Draymond Green build. He's like a 6'7" center.
Not him.
And then they had Reggie Williams that they drafted out of A&M last year, but he has off the court issues that they needed to take care of. So they're just one interesting piece of this puzzle. Because the next team in the line is the Brooklyn Nets, who could be the most interesting piece of this puzzle because they might. Before we get into them, just on face value, signing Kyrie, signing Kevin Durant, and not having him all year.
Don't forget DeAndre Jordan.
Getting DeAndre Jordan and keeping a decent bit of their young core: Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, Dinwiddie, Jared Allen. Any chance that they make the East Finals or the NBA Finals?
Not the
this
NBA
year.
Finals.
This year.
No, this is.
I don't even see the East Finals.
Okay, because I don't see that either, unless Karis LeVert makes an enormous jump. But they're going to be a team that
give them a year.
Yeah, like
let it simmer
after this season. Figure out if Kyrie is going to completely implode the locker room, which I don't think he will necessarily because Kevin Durant's going to be around all the time, and they have some sort of relationship, it seems. And
everyone does now these days. They're all good friends.
Seriously,
it seems like KD and Kyrie are like best friends
now, right?
Like this whole the last 12 months.
Yeah, let's go.
2 max slots. You remember that? Oh my God, they're going to the Knicks. It's like,
sorry, Alvin.
Hey, KD,
they got you there.
KD was going to be a Knick, but didn't want to offer him the max.
So
I think everybody knew he was going to Brooklyn as soon as he saw Kyrie signs with fucking Rock Nation.
Yeah, that kind of started painting the walls. So Brooklyn signs Kyrie, they sign KD, they get DeAndre Jordan, and then they agree to a sign and trade with the Warriors to send them D'Angelo Russell. Are y'all in the camp that they maybe should have kept what they had from last year and just tried to keep building off of that? Or do you think that they did make the right move in trying to go all in with Kyrie and KD?
I think eventually it will be said that they made the right move, but I wanted them to see them to build off what they had with D'Lo and that squad.
Well, they upgraded.
Yeah, I mean it's a definite upgrade, so it's like
yeah.
They're
still gonna be fun to watch this year.
Yeah,
they're not.
Yeah,
gonna be, it's not gonna be
one of the reasons why
they're gonna be televised now.
Like I was rooting for the Thunder to get good
NBA pass.
Back in like 2010.
It'll be League Pass.
I was rooting for the Warriors to get good. Like I'm rooting for the Suns to get good. Because I root for teams to grow like naturally. Like I got mad at the Warriors when they got good and then they were like, we're the fucking best team in the world and started like showboating. And then they signed Kevin Durant, which also didn't help. But like, it's a shame that we didn't really get to see the Thunder like fulfill their prophecy. So it's like, I love watching a team be able to like kind of fight their way up the ladder. Like I'm kind of rooting for Boston now because of the way that they've like drafted and they got like shunned by Kyrie. And I mean, I wasn't rooting for them with Kyrie, but now that this whole saga happened, now that like there's a reason for me to actually like them and root for them. And that's how it would have been with Brooklyn if they would have kept D'Angelo Russell. Like they took a bunch of guys off the scrap heap because they had to fix what Billy King did back with the Darren Williams and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce trades. And they had very little assets, 9 years ago, and they started picking up guys in the second round and trading for contracts that were bad contracts, and it allowed them to get D'Angelo Russell. So like I was rooting for them to keep Russell and keep growing, but what they did makes complete sense, like basketball and financial sense wise. Like you go and become a champion today. But my rooting interest is for the underdogs and for teams to grow naturally, like grow with the players you draft, develop the players. Don't go and it's the whole Yankees and Lakers thing. Like, don't go buy your best players, like grow your best players. But I don't blame them. Like they're going to be a force to be reckoned with next year, not this year, next year. Given that KD fully comes back and gets to like at least 80% of what he was. Any other things on Brooklyn you want to touch? Because that was pretty much their move. Is the KD and Kyrie. DeAndre Jordan, I don't think that they should have signed him. Like, they had Jared Allen, who is much younger and does the same exact thing on a better contract. I mean, Jordan gives them depth, but I just don't think that Jordan was the person they should have gone after. But there are rumblings that one of the reasons why like KD and Kyrie agreed to sign was so that they could get DeAndre Jordan there too.
Yeah, they took significantly less money.
Right. So, if that's the case, and that's the case, you have to do that. You bite the bullet to get those two guys. So that moves us on to the Mavericks. Who?
Why is Kawhi as a Laker trending on Twitter right now?
Because
Woj bomb.
There haven't been any Woj
because
bombs.
the fake Wojs are out. I was scrolling through and Woody Page retweeted a fake Woj Kawhi has agreed to sign with the Lakers thing, and I like bought it for 5 seconds and I was like, what the? And then I looked and I was like, wait, that guy's name is like Katie.
Oh, because people are straight up tweeting Kawhi as a Laker.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of randoms, just making it like they're trying to will it into existence.
They're going to trend it on Twitter so it happens in real life.
Kawhi's gonna be like, I guess I play for the Lakers now.
I mean, everybody's saying it.
I guess everybody knows. I don't know, but okay.
Yeah, except if he was going to like be like that, he would probably end up staying with Toronto because he has an entire country behind him to stay in Toronto.
There's as many people in Canada as there are in LA.
I don't believe that.
What?
Facts.
I don't believe that.
Check it.
Canada's a whole country.
Hold up.
Toronto is like the...
There it is. Bleacher. Oh, you motherfucker. Bleacher Report. I was like, Kawhi Leonard has agreed to 4-year, $148 million contract with the Lakers. League sources tell ESPN.
You know what we need to do? We just need to like have Woj official open and just keep refreshing it.
That's all I'm at. I'm at it right now.
Yeah, just fuck it. No,
Nothing in the past hour.
If Woj ain't said it ain't real.
I'm going to his likes.
If Woj hasn't said it, Shams doesn't get a chance to say it for another 5 minutes. So Dallas didn't really do much. They did sign Seth Curry, 4-year, $32 million, which is very fair. It's a great contract for them. I think that gives them, like, I could honestly see if Porzingis is healthy for the full season, see them being a playoff team. Like I think Luka's that good. I think Seth being paired with Luka and Kristaps is solid. If Kawhi leaves Toronto, Danny Green is going to the Mavericks. So that would give them another 3-and-D guy. And
you don't think he'd follow Kawhi?
He's already kind of came out and said that he's leaning to the Mavericks if Kawhi leaves.
Who?
Danny Green. Yeah. So I think like they're going to be pretty good. I don't necessarily like the fact that they like re-signed JJ Barea.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like you've been so good for us for so long. Like you were pivotal in us winning a championship. That loyalty 1-year deal.
Yeah.
And then they signed this Maxi Kleber guy, who I believe is in his second year now.
How's he getting signed when he's getting his second year?
He was a foreigner.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So I have no idea who this Kleber guy is, but
the way Casey goes, he's a foreigner? He's not from around here.
Yeah, no idea. The Mavericks also went 4 years, the last at team option on Kleber, who was a restricted free agent at age 27 because he came to the NBA relatively late in his career. I like the value on a deal that pays him less than the non-taxpayer mid-level exception over that span. So, apparently he has quietly become one of the NBA's best combination rim protectors, 3-point shooters. Per basketballreference.com, he was one of 13 players to average at least a 3-pointer and a block per game last season. So,
okay.
Alrighty.
A nice little hidden gem there.
Right.
Possibly. Now we go to Denver. Extending Jamal Murray, which was obvious.
Good.
They brought back Paul Millsap also, right?
I believe so. I know that they were working on that. They would have been a sneaky Tobias Harris destination. It's just a sprinklers gumbo. Sorry, there was a big rumbling outside and dog came running up. I would have probably put Denver at like the top of the championship contenders if they got Tobias Harris, because I think him, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Gary Harris, Paul Millsap, Torrey Craig, like that whole team is Monte Morris.
Well, I think they didn't want to bring somebody like Harris because they got back what's his name that they drafted.
Porter. Yeah. I and if he is fully healthy, like he can be the guy. He was projected to be the guy before his back went out, but I think Denver just went the safe route. Like, look at what we did. Like, we're already ahead of schedule. We were the second best team in the West. We went to a Game 7 with Portland. Could have ended up in the Western Conference Finals. And most of our players are young. They were the 8th youngest team in the playoffs ever. So you just stand pat and continue to develop. Onto the Warriors. They lose Kevin Durant, but they do get D'Angelo Russell, which is, it's kind of one of those, like, I feel like it's going to work fits. I don't know how it's going to work, but I feel like it is going to. I mean, he's definitely he's better than Quinn Cook, so you can at least say that. Because Quinn Cook was garbage in the finals.
So many people were garbage.
They signed Clay to the max, which was a given. They were going to do that. So we'll see what this team looks like when he's healthy and whether or not they're going to try to flip Russell for pieces. And then they were able to re-sign Kevon Looney, and we talked about that a little bit before starting this podcast on a steal of a deal because Kevon Looney probably could have got.
He could have got way more money.
He probably could have got like 4 years, $60 million instead of 3 for 15. So that was huge. And then they, they also got like a couple pieces. Trevion Graham or just Trevon. Not sure.
The way he's just, I'm not sure.
It's Shabazz Napier.
What's up with Houston though?
Nothing.
Treading water.
Not a damn thing. They didn't get anybody that day.
No, they didn't get Graham and Napier because they couldn't afford to get them after the Russell deal, the Thompson deal. So they had to reroute them to T-Wolves. But, this is kind of what we talked about after the finals ended with Kevin Durant going down is give your team a break a little bit. Like retool, like let Steph, play a little less, like let Clay rehab the full year, like let Draymond just do whatever the fuck he wants to do because that guy's crazy. Develop some of your younger guys. Develop the Jordan Bells more. Like
they lost Jordan Bell.
Oh, did they?
He signed with Minnesota.
We hadn't got to Minnesota yet, so I didn't see that move. Because he was a second round pick, so he was only like on a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
That's right. But I mean, they still have younger guys. It's unfortunate that part of the trade to get D'Angelo Russell, they had to get rid of Andre Iguodala, who is a pivotal piece to their championship team. But like
I think they're ready to get to.
I personally don't even see them making the playoffs at this point.
I do.
I think that's.
I see them making it. I don't see them getting top 4 seeds, but I do see them squeezing it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they made it. I also wouldn't be surprised if they missed it.
This is also where we'll see Steve Kerr, his actual
coaching ability.
Exactly. This is where you make your all-time coach list.
Yeah. So it's going to be a really weird year for Golden State, but it's a breath of fresh air as NBA fans. Houston, they re-signed a couple guys to 1-year deals, and then they gave a 3-year deal to Daniel House, who earned it after all the hard work that he put in as a 2-way player and like 10-day contracts. And but they didn't have much going for them going into this. They spent a lot of money on Harden and Paul and Capella that they needed to and if they tried to get Butler, it was going to be really difficult to figure out who they were going to move where.
I'm pretty sure it was Capella.
So they didn't really. They're going to be the same team going into next year, so they're not going to win a championship.
Sorry.
Now, the Lakers, they made their moves pre-free agency. And so right now, they're literally just waiting on Kawhi. If they land Kawhi, then they catapult to favorite to win the title. If they don't, then they have that cap space to go and try to figure out some of the lower tier guys. So the Lakers are a wait and see team, TBD. Miami did that sign and trade for Jimmy Butler, which was a big deal. It gets them a new cornerstone of the franchise for the end of his career, taking over the mantle from D Wade. They did have to shift some pieces from there. They were kind of a grit and grind type team that surprisingly was close to making the playoffs. but it's going to be interesting to see how Miami retools and shifts going forward with Jimmy as their focal point, and having given up some of the guys like Josh Richardson, who was so good for them. I believe that since the trade fell through, that had Dallas in it, they still have Derek Jones and Goran Dragic and Kelly Olynyk. So at least they still have, some decent pieces around him. What do you think of the fit for Jimmy Butler in Miami? Because I personally love it.
I like it.
I think
I'm about
it.
it.
Yeah.
I think the culture, the team, the organization, like Pat Riley being the president of basketball operations and Jimmy Butler, like Pat Riley would have wanted to have Jimmy Butler on his 80s Lakers and his 90s Knicks teams.
100%. Yeah, I'm with it.
So
on the 90s Knicks teams for sure.
So I think that's a match made in heaven. But we'll kind of see how, like, I would maybe put Miami at like the 6th seed in the East right now, because I think they're still behind Philly. We'll see what Toronto does. They're behind Indiana. They're behind Boston, and I would probably even put them behind Brooklyn too. So, again, we'll need to see what their other moves are. The Pelicans, kind of like the Lakers, their big moves was before the free agency. Getting Zion, getting rid of Anthony Davis, getting that massive haul back. We'll see how all those guys pair. Their free agency thing, they did lose Julius Randle, who was fantastic for them last year, but I think they made the right move on moving on from him, because he would just be Zion Williamson, as Enes Kanter put, Zion Williamson without the hops.
Stupid. Damn, man.
So they, in order to replace that big man in their lineup, they did sign, or they agreed to a trade for Derek Favors, who got shifted out of Utah, who really wasn't a factor for that team over the last couple of years with the emergence of Rudy Gobert and how that team started playing their playing style with Donovan Mitchell. So I think it's a good fit for Favors. I think the Pelicans did the right move, shifting away from Julius Randle, and really going hard on Drew, Zion, and if Brandon Ingram can be healthy going forward, that kind of trio, and developing that. Now we get to the losers of free agency. We have to have like a little moratorium for the New York Knicks. Here lies Madison Square Garden.
Anyone wants to say some words?
It might be a little offensive, but can I say that this is the worst day to be a person in New York since 9/11?
Oh. How dare you?
Yeah, man. I mean, did you expect to get anything else? Did you expect anything else for this franchise?
No.
I said it was a summer when they tried to get LeBron.
Did y'all see the Sell the Team music video that The Ringer did with Isaac Lee?
Nuh-uh.
I'll show it to y'all after this, but Isaac Lee, he's one of the producers for the NBA, the Ringer NBA show, and he's a big Clippers fan. Apparently he dabbles in creating like parody music videos, and he did a song called Sell the Team to the tune of Let It Go.
Sell the team.
Sell the team. Yeah, it pretty much exactly like that. And it's incredible. And I believe the last time we recorded, we talked about Dolan and Sarver, like those two guys are just pariahs of NBA owners. In order, and if those teams are going to ever get something good to happen to them, they have to sell.
100%.
So to use their cap space, they went and signed Julius Randle. I think great signing. Like you didn't get he didn't cost too much money. You didn't sign him to a max deal like you did with Amari. You sign Alfred Payton, you sign Wayne Ellington, you sign Reggie Bullock, guys who can spot up and shoot. Not Alfred Payton, but Bullock and Ellington are good shooters, good two guards. You can play them alongside RJ Barrett, let RJ develop his ball handling, his pick and roll game, his just learning the speed of the NBA and where to pass, when not to pass. Little things like that he'll need to develop, because this is a guy who was the number one rated recruit. This was the guy who was supposed to go number one overall before the college season, and Zion Mania took off. So, like, other than the fact that they got gut punched by KD and Kyrie not going there, and then that coming after the gut punch of not getting Zion in the lottery, which also came off after the gut punch of trading Kristaps so these things could happen, and not being able to trade for AD. I think they actually did a really good job at filling out their roster, because they also signed Taj Gibson and Bobby Portis.
I feel like they picked up like good serviceable pieces. And, like, they're going to sleep on that.
Like, with Fizdale as the coach, like, they're going to be a solid team.
They actually got players.
They're not going to be a laughing stock, I don't think. The laughing stock part
is happening right now.
It comes from not having Kevin Durant sign with them and Kyrie sign with them.
Yo, that Kawhi is a Laker trend jumped up to 10.5K.
Jesus.
When I jumped on Twitter, it was only at 8,000.
So now we're at Portland. We talked about, they lost Canner. They traded for Whiteside to pair with Nurkic, who's still recovering from his fractured leg. They lost Seth Curry. They traded Mo Harkless. They lost Al-Farouq Aminu and Myers Leonard. So they definitely got worse so far. They still have, the second best backcourt in the league, which is something to grow on. But I don't like what they've done so far in the offseason. So I'm just going through, making sure I didn't miss anything. That was all the day 2 moves, which was from today. What wasn't on there was Indiana. They kind of snuck in with a contract to get Malcolm Brogdon away from the Bucks. They did lose Bojan Bogdanovic to the Jazz at the same time, but I think pairing Brogdon with Oladipo, with Turner and Sabonis, they still have a solid core, like I said, Bogdanovic moves on to Utah, pairs up with Gobert and Joe Ingles and Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. I was about to go, like, last night I wanted to go put some money down on Utah to win the title. It's like, I love these moves that they've made. Milwaukee re-signed Brooke Lopez, Chris Middleton, who we talked about, and losing Brogdon allowed them to re-sign George Hill to keep as their backup point guard. So they mainly stayed intact other than losing Brogdon. And then they're looking at possibly signing Robin Lopez. JJ Redick is a New Orleans Pelican. So that's a piece of the Pelicans that I didn't bring up that, consummate pro, great teammate, incredible shooter. So pairing him up with the guys that they have there, I think works really, really well. Talked about those. And then Damian Lillard agreed to the 4-year contract extension, currently projected at $196 million.
Payday.
So
Beep, beep, beep.
And then Utah, to replace Favors as far as front court players go, they signed a 2-year, $10 million deal for Ed Davis, which is perfect. Like, he does what they needed Favors to do at a much lower deal. So as I brought up before we started, I wanted to get y'all's favorite move. What do you think the best move was out of the first a little over day of free agency? And I guess since we haven't recorded for a couple weeks, like, even some of the moves over the last week, but really, like, with free agency on the brain, what was your favorite move? Like, signing, trade, whatever. Because since there were so many sign and trades, I have to kind of say trade.
In my heart, I want to say KD to Brooklyn. It felt nice. Feels nice to be able to cheer for him. You know, he's not going to 73 win team.
He's not
Yeah. He didn't snake his way into 2 titles.
So in my heart, I want to say that, but I also want to say that Al Horford, because it feels a lot like 99. And Casey knows what I'm talking about.
The Twin Towers?
Yes.
Except one of them is Al Horford and the other is Joel Embiid. And they're not, 2 of the top 30 players ever to play in the league.
Okay, but still. Jesus.
But I get
all over you.
I do get what you're saying, though, is because, like,
shit, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, they work. They pair together well. I think the biggest issue that I have for it is Ben Simmons. Like,
you just,
like, if they had Mike Conley instead of Ben Simmons, a guy who can, like, run a pick and roll and teams aren't going to completely sag off of their man. Like,
just let him shoot. Just let him shoot.
Right, like,
shoot the J.
So
shoot it.
Like, when the other team is telling a player that, like, it's not a good look. So
fucking, I just thought of Jimmy Butler telling him, just shoot the 3, shoot it. Let it fly.
That shot's gonna look worse than Kyle Lowry's Game 5 3.
I just remember, like, along came Paul. You're like, let it rain.
White chocolate.
Rain Man.
Oh God, classic scene, classic basketball scene right there.
R.I.P. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Mm-hmm.
Gone too soon.
Just like so many. So you really like the Al Horford. Do you think that puts them at number 1 in the East?
For now, until we get given Kawhi.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I wouldn't even put that number 1. I'd still put Milwaukee ahead of them. You got to respect the MVP.
Yeah. Deserving MVP.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's God. This might be the most well-rounded the NBA has been in years. Like, maybe
where it's not super stacked on the West.
Like, I'm thinking,
this even still is stacked on the West.
Stacked, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely super stacked on the West. But I'm trying to think of, like, late like 2000s, the 08, 09, 10 range, where you had Cleveland with LeBron, you had the Celtics with their big three. You had the Magic with Dwight Howard. You had Indiana with Paul George and Roy Hibbert in them. You had Derrick Rose in those Bulls teams. Yeah. I want to say that those were right around the same time. I think Philly had a solid team in there one year. But since then it was, LeBron for 8 years. And so this last year was a deep East year. So it's good to see the parity. I like the parity. Alvin, what was your favorite move though?
My favorite move, I'm really liking the Malcolm Brogdon to Indiana. Darren Collison retires after 10 years.
He's gonna go praise Jesus or whatever his religious virtue. He said he was retiring to focus on his faith.
More power to him. And I just feel like that's a Nate McMillan's type of guard.
Absolutely.
One that can defend,
absolutely.
Play off the ball, shoot with range, pick and roll. Like him and Victor Oladipo, that's gonna be a solid backcourt to deal with.
Yeah,
and like you said, they still keep their core together too.
Yeah, I really, really liked that move. I thought it was smart to try to kind of sneak in there and make that happen. My favorite move is a little bit sorry, I was looking at something. I was going to look for the article for Darren Collison, so I went to the Indiana Pacers ESPN page, and there's a picture of Bruce Bowen. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is Bruce Bowen on the Indiana Pacers thing? Pacers signed former Louisville recruit Bowen, former Louisville and South Carolina player Brian Bowen II, caught up in the college basketball corruption scandal, has signed a 2-way contract with the Indiana Pacers. Wrong Bowen, ESPN. Get your shit together.
You're going to be in the G League for the first few months.
So Corey Joseph signed with the Kings. I believe he was with Indiana this last year. He was up there in the 6th man of the year voting.
Indiana's also picked up Jeremy Lamb also.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
So my
I didn't know he was still in the league.
Jehovah's Witness. That's what Darren Collison is.
That's a Jehovah's Witness move. Not even gonna play. That's a Jehovah's Witness move right there. 100%.
We need you to go to these door-to-doors.
I'm gonna go stand outside of a park.
That's a Jehovah's Witness / Mormon move right there.
So my favorite move is more based off of what else happened along with this team. But the Jazz signing Bogdanovich, I was really hoping that the Spurs could find a way to land him because he would have been a perfect Spur and fit right in with them. 6'9", decent ball handler, great shooter, good rebounder, tough defender. And you pair him up with a bunch of smart basketball players and a good coach in a team that was really him away from being a legit contender in the West last year. Just the trade to Conley, I thought put them up in the conversation of this team could be really good. The signing of Bogdanovich puts them to me as they're going to be top 3 seed in the Western Conference playoffs, if not the best team in the league next year. That's how much I have liked all of the Jazz moves. And they're not going to have to rely on Donovan Mitchell so much, so his efficiency should shoot up. Having Conley run a pick and roll with Rudy Gobert, with Bogdanovich and Joe Ingles and Donovan Mitchell on the outside, spacing the floor. All 3 guys can shoot. All 3 guys can create off the dribble. Bogdanovich and Ingles are much better passers than Mitchell. But, Mitchell's, no slouch. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of their bench is filled out, and how all of that ends up working. But every move that the Jazz made so far has just been a home run to me. And like I said, with signing Ed Davis to replace Favors, for a cheaper deal while he is older, he knows his role, and he's very similar to like the Montrezl Harrell. Like, he knows what he's there to do. He's not going to go out of that box. He's going to stay in his lane. He's going to get you rebounds, set picks, and defend the rim. So that's the move that I really like the most. We didn't touch on the one team that we all kind of represent a little bit with the Spurs.
Was it DeMarre Carroll?
With DeMarre Carroll, and the re-signing of Rudy Gay. I love the Carroll signing personally because, like I just said with Bogdanovich, like
that's just something that fits.
It's
Yep,
he fits a role. I was texting my brother about it last night when we signed him. Like, having a 5 on the floor of DeJounte Murray, DeMar DeRozan, DeMarre Carroll, Rudy Gay, and LaMarcus Aldridge, like, that is a tough 5 to go against. Like,
it's gonna be a fun 5 to watch.
If Carroll's knocking down shots and like Gay can shoot the ball well, DeRozan has kind of alluded to shooting more threes this year and going back to trying to like shoot more. But I just think that the Spurs have such an interesting team that there's a lot of guys they need to develop still. And apparently this Luka Samanic is no joke. They're playing the Summer League right now. Apparently he's extremely quick for a 6'9", 6'10" guy.
Did I not tell you them Spurs love them Euro boys?
They do. They do. But I mean, when you've been burned so many times, you kind of like you take your hand away from the flame a little bit. It's like you're tired of being burned by this. We're gonna draft this 18-year-old English center named Ryan Richards that has never seen an NBA court. We're going to sign this guy who plays in Serbia. Like, you're not going to see him for 6 years. I guess the reason why Tim Duncan has his joke about Ginobili that he said multiple occasions where he's talking about how, when he's watching the draft, he sees the Spurs are drafting Emmanuel Ginobili, and he's like, oh, who's this guy? I'm never going to see this guy ever. That's the Spurs. Like, they're going to draft a random foreign dude, but this guy was drafted. He already signed a contract, and he will be a Spur this year. So it'll be. I'm in the same boat that I was last year. I don't necessarily see them being, getting a home court advantage in the playoffs. They will be fighting for the 6, 7, 8 seed. But there's still going to be teams that are tanking, and there's still going to be bad teams that are working out chemistry issues, and the Spurs will have the Spursdom to fall back on. And we'll get, the closer it gets to the season, the more we'll discuss.
Say Kawhi becomes a Laker.
Let's say it.
Will there be any kind of chemistry issues, do you think, between, say, Braun and Kawhi?
I think if Kawhi becomes a Laker, he was sitting there in a room with LeBron and Anthony Davis, and LeBron said, hey, I'm trying to take the back seat here. Because
is he though?
No.
If I'm LeBron, yes. But LeBron's LeBron, I don't know. But he's one of like the greatest players ever, but he's also one of the smartest basketball players ever. Like, he understands basketball history. He understands that he's at 60,000 minutes for his career. Like, Karl Malone and Kareem are the only guys to hit that. Like, he's in rarefied air as far as minutes go. He knows he needs to take a back seat. He wanted to take a back seat in Cleveland. He wanted to take a back seat this year with the Lakers. Like, he wanted to kind of start taking his foot off of the pedal. He wanted to go into the passenger seat for a little while. Like, he wanted that to happen with Kyrie, and it didn't.
What about
he say those things?
So if Braun takes a back seat to next season, who's driving? Is it Kawhi or is it AD?
I would hope it's Kawhi, because you literally just saw this dude drive Toronto to an NBA Finals win. Like,
but AD's on the cover of 2K.
Right. But AD didn't drive the Pelicans to shit. He got like one playoff series win in 7 years in New Orleans. He made the playoffs, what, three of those years? Maybe 2 years?
I think it was 2.
I think they got swept by Golden State, and then they swept Portland, and then they got swept by Golden State again.
Kawhi's gonna sign in China.
Hey, where's LeVar Ball's son playing at? Let me sign there. But odds are, if Kawhi signs with the Lakers, it'll be LeBron's team. He'll be the catalyst, because he's the best playmaker of the three. And then you'll be able to run these funky pick and roll, like, back picks with Kawhi and Anthony Davis. I think it'd be a terrible fit.
So Kawhi is gonna be a Laker. Clippers have been notified by Kawhi Leonard that he will not be signing with their team. Fox Sports Radio with a check mark.
Oh man.
Followed by Colin Cowherd. It's Fox Sports Radio. Listen live, iHeartRadio. This is legit, it looks like. Then again, this is also Chris Broussard reporting this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Chris Broussard.
I mean, he's been right before, but
he was the one that was saying, "Oh,
Mark Cuban doesn't even know where DeAndre Jordan lives. He's calling me looking for it."
he was hyping up the Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler to Clippers.
Oh man.
Ago,
as soon as I saw his name tied to it, I was like, nope. Yeah. Chris Broussard, sources say, he said he's been told Kawhi Leonard is leaning heavily towards the Lakers. Well, yeah, all the Lakers have to do is, like, walk him into a room with all the fucking trophies.
Still haven't had a meeting with Jeannie Buss yet, so I wonder how that's going to play out.
He didn't want her in. No, he did want her in there.
But they haven't had the meeting yet.
So,
he's
23 minutes ago, Kendrick Perkins said, just heard that Kawhi is meeting with the Clippers tonight, but the Lakers hold the upper hand. Unless Doc works his magic tonight, it's looking very strong that Kawhi will be in purple and gold. And he also 2 weeks ago said that Kevin Durant was going to the Nets.
Yeah.
Well, we said Kevin Durant was going to the Nets like fucking 3 months ago.
Suck on that, Perkins. Don't come at me, bro.
No, I did. I had that thought pass through my head while I was watching him on TV. It's just like, oh, you said it a week ago. He's gonna go to this. I was like, bitch, you don't listen to the Benchwarmers podcast.
For real. For real.
Had that 2 months ago.
So, I mean, there's definitely going to be some feeling out process there, but when you have three guys that talented, you can kind of you can jump through the hoops on the fly and still win 60 games. It's going to be interesting to see how they fill out their roster with all of the decent second tier guys, veterans already being on rosters. So they're going to be stuck with Lance Stevenson and KCP and the same.
Oh, bring back.
They won't even get bum ass JaVale McGee.
Fucking bum ass.
They were all on 1 year contract, so you gonna bring them back?
Because JaVale McGee went to Detroit.
Oh, you did? Yes.
So
did Derrick Rose.
So, it'll be. I mean, I don't know if I've been this excited for an NBA season in the last 5 years. I think the year after the Spurs won the title, I was this excited. Even the 2017 year when the Zaza game happened, and I felt like the Spurs had a chance to beat the Warriors, I still wasn't this excited because I didn't necessarily think they had a chance to beat the Warriors. So that's a good thing for the NBA. It's a good thing that you have all this movement. The balance of power has shifted to kind of an even keel. We'll see how this new big three, if Kawhi does end up being a Laker, ends up being, and I'm looking forward to it all. I think that should wrap up our free agency discussion. We'll get back at it next week with talks about, we'll probably know by then what Kawhi did. So we'll talk that. Wimbledon is going on, so I'm going to talk some tennis. The women's national team in the World Cup, the men's national team in the Gold Cup. Major League Baseball is going to be at the All-Star game next week. So there's quite a bit to discuss. And then, in a couple weeks, 3 weeks.
Perks agree with you.
What?
6 hours ago, he said that Utah Jazz got extremely better this offseason. They're going to be a serious problem.
Oh, they definitely are. So yeah, we'll get back on the grind, and then when the new 2K drops, we'll do our little GM simulation because we'll have all the new rosters and stuff.
We could still do it because the roster is continually updated on.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to look through those rosters, see if I agree with those ratings. No.
I'm sure you won't.
But do they have the rookies and stuff Zion and everything
Zion
too?
And everybody, yep.
Can we take a moment to acknowledge the fact that OJ's on Twitter and we haven't talked about it at all?
OJ's on Twitter. Oh,
have you not seen the Twitter videos?
I saw you.
Dog, they're the best thing. I swear.
Where he's all
every video
followers to help him out with that.
Don't do it right now because it's gonna sound shitty on the thing on the recording. But go on your phone and go to Twitter. Go to at the real OJ32. Click on every video for 2 seconds. You're gonna hear, "Hello, Twitter world. Hey there, Twitter world. Hey, Twitter world. Hello, Twitter world." I swear to God, he's got 7 fucking videos, and that's how they all start.
First thing.
Hello, Twitter world. Yours truly.
All right. Well, on the OJ note, let's kill this podcast. I am Casey Coggins, and as always, joined by Alvin Hebert.
Yeah, see y'all later.
And Andrew Lira.
We'll see y'all.
See y'all next week.
Hello, Twitter world.